This is uncharacteristic for me, but I'm doing an evening stream. I will take a moment. Let's see. Unusual evening stream because I felt like doing other stuff earlier today. There we go. That's I didn't mean to copy the text that just says Twitch. All right, I'll just post that. There we go. Don't show again. There we go. I like super proud stories that act like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. They're not just brute force. Those can be fun. Those can be a lot of fun. I'm gotta say I am a big fan of the JoJo's where it's like every stand has that's not the right pack. Every stand has like a special ability, and then on top of that, you can also just use your stand to beat the shit out of somebody. But then there's a couple of stands whose superpower is that they can just beat the shit out of you, right? And those stands are like better at doing that than the other ones, but the other ones have like unique abilities to them. Certified JoJo's moment. For sure, for sure. Use as a different same type of stand. Wait, different stand types have different rules. Yes, that's right. It's like classes almost in like a class-based video game. Everybody has abilities, but they do different things and like different functions. Autocorrect murdered it. Yeah, I can kind of tell, but I got the meaning of it all the same, I think. Anyways, I did in fact title the stream that on purpose to be funny. I suppose. Dio is in fact a dictator. Yes, he's an extremely flamboyant, hot, gay dictator, but he's a dictator all the same. He just wants to like, I don't know. I would say fuck bitches and get money, but I think you could replace both of those with kill. He wants to kill bitches and kill money. That's Dio's whole character. I wish I had the cooking stand. Oh yeah, from JoJo's Part 4. The guy that like makes spaghetti so good that it solves all of your like dermatological problems or whatever the fuck. Right? Yeah. I don't know why that random string of text was there. Also to help other people besides myself. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, that's what he was doing with that stand. He was like, I invite people to my restaurant and then I make food for them with the stand, and then like all of their health problems are solved, and it makes me happy because I have customers and their life gets better when I make them food. And it's like, oh wow, that was really cool. And it was perfectly in line with like the rest of part 4 because most, with the exception of fucking Kira Yoshikage, it was all like you fight against this stand user one episode, and then the next episode your friends and shit. Like the real JoJo's Bizarre Adventure was in fact the friends that they made along the way, you know, and their friends are just all like stand users. Apparently, in the comic, when they befriend them, they actually got smaller. Interesting. And in the anime, they stay small. You mean like Like they're consistently the same size in the anime, but in the comics they like change size. That's interesting. I didn't know that. I see. I'm not a huge manga reader. I don't usually read manga, so I watched JoJo's, but I didn't read JoJo's. Huh. Anyway, I don't want to bury the lead for this stream. I think I'm just going to open this right away. There we go. No, The Guardian, I will not, I'm not going to support you every month or whatever. Person that makes a comic, you can tell, just makes the story up as they go along, and the anime just streamlines it. You know what? I support them. I support them for that. As long as they keep making JoJo's, like, the gayest fucking series, manga, anime series of all time, then fuck it, they can do what they want. Like, if JoJo's retains its identity as being JoJo's, right? Being, like, extremely homosexual, then I'm down. Can't wait till the next part in that case. Oh, I'm excited, dude. I'm actually I'm trying not to like constantly think about it, but I watched I remember I've watched every part of JoJo that's been released, parts 1 through 6, and part 5 was great because it was it was very Italian and very gay, but I repeat myself. You know, and there were characters that were definitely gay for each other in that part. But then in part 6, they were like, what if you know, obviously it's JoJo's, it's still gay, but what if they were lesbians this time? Really fucking angry, muscular prison lesbians. And I was like, fuck it, that's my jam. I couldn't tell you a lot of, like, you know, part 6 reads kind of like a fever dream to me, to be honest. But I loved it all the same. Because of and I could tell you the general themes and stuff of what was happening there about, like, what's his name, the priest who was seeking basically to do the same thing that Dio did. He wanted to be immortal, and his stand revolved a lot around the control of the flow of time, which got really screwy, and it just felt like he was a constant presence in the show. It was really well done that way. They do a great job because of how stand abilities work. They do a great job of making the villains feel really ever present and intimidating, and almost like an insurmountable force when faced with what the hero is capable of and, like, willing to do. You know, it always feels like the reason that they're so much more threatening is just because they'll just fucking do whatever. You know, that, like, because of how unhinged the JoJo's villains are, they'll, like, tear reality apart at the seams, which theoretically the hero could, like, Jolene and Jotaro could do that as well with their stands if they wanted to, but, like, they're the good guys, so they don't. They're like, you know, we're actually not here to rip reality apart, you know, thank you. You know, so I don't know. I really enjoyed it for that, and I think the setting of a prison in Florida was actually fucking genius, because it just seems like that's the kind of place where you would have, like, it's almost like the setting does a lot to sort of make a little bit more believable the depth of like, the depths of the evil of the main bad guy. Made in heaven plan if the sun keeps showing up. How did Dio plan to survive? He's got plans upon plans upon plans. But bro's like watching Dune all the time or something. I don't know. He's probably just gonna stay inside. But yeah, in that way, it sort of felt like the whole having stands was just plopped on top of, like, the regular ass prison system in the state of Florida, because it's all like institutional corruption is just fucking everywhere. I feel like they kind of had to set it there to have that level of corruption be present. Like, I don't think that would be would be possible if they set it someplace in Japan. I don't know how bad the prison system is in Japan, but you know, prison system in the United States is, it seems like, was really conducive to setting up the conflict of JoJo's Part 6, where the main villain is a completely fucking unhinged priest who is now a splinter leader of a cult that he used to be a part of. Like, he was part of Dio's cult of personality, and now he is split off. He's got his own cult, and he's trying to basically achieve immortality and, like, ultimate power and whatever, which is very believable. It's just fantastical in that stands don't actually exist, you know? The mini-boss was beating up the warden? That's true. So yeah, all that to say, I like JoJo's because it's gay, and JoJo's Part 6 was also really gay, and set in America, so I liked it. There's a mini-comic where Rohan is dealing with COVID-19? Really? Damn. I assume that'd be in one of the later parts, right? JoJo's Part 3, like, Part 3 came out in, like, 2014 in anime format, but Part 3 was written in, like, the 80s. Where, like... No, it isn't. Well, I know that Part 3 was written in, like, the 80s or whatever. But then, and then, like, but I don't really know. I think Part 4 was written in the 90s, or, like, early 2000s or something like that. I don't know how recently Parts 5 and 6 were written, you know? Because Part 6 just came out, like, last year, I think. Writer takes a long time for parts. Yeah, it's to be expected, I suppose, right? And in fact, I hope it kind of stays that way, because I'd rather they take a long time to write their shit, and it just be like banger after banger, than them be rushed by the studios and it like go to shit and jump the shark or whatever, you know? I'd rather have like 5 years between parts of JoJo's than, like, you know. Yeah. Yeah, the animators are faster because they have the story already. They have the story to work with, is the thing. You know, when you don't have to create the new material yourself, you just have to animate existing material. Because the manga of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is already quite animated in the way that it's drawn, right? Like, there's a lot of moments from JoJo's that are so iconic that you'll have basically the same thing both on page and on screen. You know? Which is not to say that it's not, like, hard work or anything to animate that shit. You know, animators that do a lot of hard work, but, you know, it certainly makes it easier and more feasible. Anyways. What do you do if you had Heaven's Door? I don't fucking know. That's like too much power. I feel like I wouldn't do much with it. I almost wouldn't know, like, what to do with it. You know, because, like, it accelerates time, right? So I don't really want to do that, because that would just make everybody around me fucking die. Right? Like, what? Live in a... No, it's the Rohan stand? Oh, what am I thinking of? JoJo Heaven's Door. Oh, right. Okay. That's the one that lets you read people like a book. That's Made in Heaven. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm getting my stands mixed up. If I could open people up to read them like a book, I don't know. I think that'd be kind of interesting. I feel like, you know what? If anything, I feel like I would want to use that for scientific literature. You know how it's constantly a thing where it's like, oh, there's quantitative data, which is just basically like we asked a bunch of people a yes or no question, or we asked a bunch of people something where like you give a response that is certain to be factual, but it doesn't range very deep, if that makes sense. You have that kind of data, and then you have qualitative data, which is a little bit more difficult to both to parse from the researcher's end and from the reader's end, you know? Like, there's an element of bias on the part of the whoever's party to the conversation, you know. Questions can be open-ended. It's possible somebody isn't truthful or whatever. I feel like it's possible to basically use that in a uniquely advantageous environment where it's like, yeah, to gather qualitative data, you know, this again is like going to be anonymized or whatever as per regular research ethics and whatnot, but we're going to ask you to like let us use the fucking heaven's door stand on you, so we can, like, for the sake of whatever research we're doing, we kind of open you up and read you like a book to see basically, you know, what your life experience over the course of this study or in response to like the questions we've been asking has been, you know. And then we sort of we write down what we view to be the important bits, and again, I cannot stress this enough, you know, anonymize that shit, because we don't want to be like doxing every single participant in every study, right? That's just, if I had Heaven's Door, that might be what I would do with it, is I would use it for the purposes of data collection in research, like social science research. What if it's only weaknesses? It doesn't work on people who don't like to read? Well, and that would make it, like, I don't know, a little bit more inconvenient when you get somebody who doesn't like to read as part of a like a volunteer group of a study or an experiment. But, you know, I'd still try to use it to get what use I could out of it, I suppose. I don't know. That's probably what I would do with Heaven's Door. Every time I think of it, it's always that it's that part where Rohan shows him like shows Josuke the fucking page of paper, because that's like the trap. He's like, "Owarida," and he's like, "I've won," and then Jojo just fucking punches him through the paper because he's like completely not seeing anything that's in front of him. Because it's like in JoJo Part 4, Josuke would just get fucking pissed whenever somebody made fun of his hair. He'd just start seeing red. So the guy, like, made fun of his hair to get his attention, and then held up the piece of paper, but Josuke wasn't even, like, perceiving the paper. America is unstoppable. True. Modern times as a JoJo part. Yes, I can in fact imagine that. This is just bizarre adventure. All you would have to do is add somebody named JoJo. America is the country. That's true. It's the country of all time. And speaking of, I want to talk at girth even, about America's big, beautiful crash out. BBC even. The BBC in reference to the BBB. It's a shame that 1v3 isn't here for this, but you know, I don't want to destroy his sleep schedule. Don't worry about it. The big beautiful bill that is now passed the House of Representatives, I believe. It's currently in the Senate. I don't know. I don't know what its fate is yet there, but you know, in all likelihood, it will probably pass the Senate as well. Unfortunately, this is not big booty bitches, you know, the big beautiful bill and the farmer villager movement or whatever. Not as cool as the other acronym with 3 B's, big booty bitches. Alas, we can't have good things because it's the 21st century. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the bill because it's like one of the only things that Congress has done recently, and characteristic of the kind of role that Congress has since relegated itself to. It is acting as a rubber stamp for the administration's agenda. You know, I know that Medicaid and Medicare cuts, budget cuts, are part of this bill. People are gonna die as a result of this. That much I know. For specifics, I will have to refer to an article from The Guardian. But, you know, it ain't good. America might be over. MFW, Netanyahu missed to openly funding Hamas to destabilize Palestine. Oh, yeah, and I think... I remember seeing articles from, like, 2019 about that. But, you know, because it's a post-truth world, all the fucking media outlets just kind of elect to not talk about it or be like, somehow this is fine, actually. You know? Or a joke where someone said, if Congress ever does anything, it hurts you. And they were cooking when they said that. Anyways, God, this cough is annoying. U.S. politics. Trump's big, beautiful spending bill from tax cuts to mass deportations. Yeah, those are also part of the bill. All the key points. Okay, what does this bill do? It extends tax cuts enacted during Trump's first term. Great. So rich people are going to get a tax cut. In fact, here, look. Standard deduction as a result of this big, beautiful bill are going to increase by $1,000 for individuals, $1,500 for head of household, and $2,000 for married couples, albeit only through 2028. So this is a standard deduction that everybody gets when they pay their taxes. It's a standard deduction that you can take away from it. That's the tax cut that everybody gets. And this bill is like, yeah, we're extending those tax cuts through 2028, you know? Except the rest of you, and by the rest of you, I mean like a handful of billionaires, you guys get tax cuts forever. The plebs get tax cuts for like a couple of years. And it's like $1,000, $2,000. That's yearly, by the way. That's the standard filing period for taxes. That's not even enough for 1 month's rent in most places in America. I'll spoil it. The rich get richer, poor get poorer. A lot of people are going to die. Yeah, and that basically sums up everything that fascists want to do ever. Array of new tax write-offs, but only while Trump is president. Yeah, the classic. Tax cuts, but only while I'm president. So all the economic consequences of reduced tax revenue get to roll in after Trump's term is done. When like, I don't know, the Democrats put up some milquetoast neo-lib to run things. And then on top of the economic fallout from that, there's also going to be the renewed frustration of know-nothing Americans who all of a sudden are paying like slightly more in taxes while nothing fundamentally changes, right? Like that's a part of this bill, just as it was a part of the 2017 tax cut package. Let's see, expanded SALT deduction. That's another tax cut for state and local level taxes. SALT stands for state and local taxes. I don't know why they don't capitalize it there. You know, we used to be a real society. We fucking capitalize our acronyms. But whatever. And then, of course, it provides the bill provides funding. Because it's a congressional bill, it is legally authorized to provide and allocate money for things. The things that it does provide money for are mass deportations and a border wall. The border wall is just a dumb virtue signal. It's just throwing money down the drain, and then mass deportations are evil. But you know, if you look inside, if you look into the details of that, the logistics of building a border wall or doing anything at the border is going to involve the military-industrial complex. So this bill, in addition to you know, being a massive neoliberal austerity package and you know, having the mass deportations or whatever, it's also a massive giveaway to the military-industrial complex. You know, the Pentagon is you know, pretty happy with this because they get to spit their shit, basically. You know? Fourth place? Yeah, another 10 billion to Israel. Many such cases. Let's see, money for mass deportations. As part of Trump's plan to remove undocumented immigrants from the country, ICE will receive 45 billion. It's actually 45 billion to ICE. 14 billion for deportation operations and several billions more to hire an additional 10,000 new agents. Great, so we get more deputized brown shirts by 2029. More than 50 billion is allocated for the construction of new border fortifications. This is the money that's going to go to the military and industrial complex, which will probably include a wall along the border with Mexico. And immigrants hoping to claim asylum or otherwise seek relief through immigration courts will face a host of new fees that advocates say may keep them out of the country altogether, which is the goal. Remember, I talked about prevention through deterrence. This is a continuation of the incentive structures that are being built to be openly hostile to immigrants. It's not like they have a particularly easy time coming to America via legal means. Most of them have to sneak in. They get turned away at ports of legal entry. May build that Great Wall after all. And that's even the least meaningful part of it, at least at the face of things. Like I said, behind that is all the military industrial complex capital that's going to be flowing around to get military contractors to, over-engineer the shit out of a border wall so they can consume billions of dollars. And the Mexicans are going to pay for it? No, we're going to pay for it because that's Pentagon money, which means that's our money, actually. Much higher budget deficit. All these tax breaks and other spending will come at a massive cost, as is expected. Yeah, they're not paying with paying for this with anything. Like this is just throwing money in a black hole, right? Let's see. The Congressional Budget Office estimates the tax bill policy will add nearly $3.8 trillion to the federal deficit. And that's actually going to hurt for once. I've talked about the deficit before and how the politics of the American debt and deficit are basically fake. Because insofar, as long as America was the global hegemon, we had unlimited leeway to go into debt infinitely to everyone because they all depended on us and we were so interconnected via trade networks. We were so connected to the rest of the world, economically speaking, that it was in everybody's interest to keep letting us borrow money and stuff. But now that America's been playing around with tariffs and kind of ruining our trade relationships for no gain, the deficit and the debt are actually going to have real consequences. Yeah, back when the government was less insane, the deficit kind of didn't matter. But now that the government's insane, no countries want to do, business in American money or American securities anymore. For shit's sake, there are even countries pulling out of U.S. Treasury bonds. You know how fucking insane a country has to be that their Treasury bonds aren't even, appealing for long-term investment? Shit is absolutely fucked, so when the United States approaches the debt ceiling, there is going to be newfound limits to what we're capable of borrowing because the people who lent us that money, that lent America that money, the businesses, the governments and whatever, are basically, they did so with the understanding that this would kind of secure a stable trade relationship with America. They kind of assumed that, okay, they're either going to be able to pay us back or we're going to get a steady flow of interest money from this. And, there's going to be some economic connections between us and America, right? But now America's, so fucking frothing at the mouth and unhinged that that's not even a sure shot anymore. Especially with Doge and Elon Musk having cooked the books so hard, the American government has started to cook its own books. Nobody wants to do business with that. That's fucking financial crisis 2008 ass behavior, So this 3.8 trillion, all that to say, this 3.8 trillion in deficit spending, cook as in burn, or cooking the books is it is a technical term in banking, which means that you lie, you The books are your accounting books in banking, in money management. Cooking the books means that you lie about how much money you have at any given time. You're writing intentionally fake numbers into your accounting books to basically like sell yourself as having more money than you actually do. This is a crime. It's one of the few things that bankers have actually gone to jail for, is misrepresenting how stable of a business you are, how much capital you have on hand. You know? Governments have never done this. It's kind of hard for me to stress just how bad it is that the American government is engaging in shit that is so fraudulent it will even get private banks in trouble. Trump did with Mar-a-Lago, so surely he can do it with the government, right? Yeah, surely. Haha, clueless. You know, like it's the standard of fraudulent behavior for like the scummiest banks in the world, and now there's the government of the like wealthiest nation state on earth is doing that, you know. But again, all that to say that this 3.8 trillion in deficit spending, in added deficit to America's budget, is going to hurt a lot worse than it would under another administration that was not like as unhinged and insane, right? Like this has real implications that when we run up against the debt limit, there might not be like, you know how there's that charade every time of like, oh, raise the debt ceiling. No, don't raise the debt ceiling. We need to pay off the debt. We need to do more spending cuts or whatever. And that's like largely charade. It might not be an entirely a charade this time around, because America might genuinely enter into a debt crisis, the likes of which you would expect out of Argentina. Legitimately, like, America being a formerly very, very wealthy country that has sort of cut itself off from all the trade relationships that made it what it was, it's possible that puts America in a similar economic position to Argentina, where there's basically a continual, perpetual economic crisis from which there's very little reprieve to be found unless, you know, socialism happens. Unless, like, mass expropriation of wealth and assets occurs and, like, a massive restructuring of, like, economic production occurs, you know? Government would rather die than have socialism, and that seems like what we're headed towards. You know? Massive economic collapse. It's just like every single thing is just one thing piling on top of another. Anyways, up next, another feature of this big, beautiful bill. Unfortunately, not the big booty bitches that I was promised when I saw the acronym of BBB. A potentially potent restriction on federal courts. Trump's supporters routinely attack judges who rule against him, and the bill includes a provision that prohibits federal courts from enforcing contempt citations related to temporary restraining orders or preliminary injunctions. Basically, they're passing a law saying that the courts can't do injunctions anymore. Because Trump, like, they were unsuccessful in arguing to the Supreme Court that courts shouldn't be allowed to, like, tell the government, no, you can't do that, actually, that's illegal. So now they're putting it in a congressional bill and trying to circumvent the judiciary that way. And if this law gets passed, the onus is now on a plaintiff to challenge the legality of this law. You know, basically, they are like, yeah, it's another one of those things where like they only have to win once. This bill would basically be like, it would further cement a unitary executive theory, in that it would consolidate more power in the administrative branch while simultaneously neutering the ability of other branches of government to do anything to stop them, right? Yeah, crazy. A felon doing criminal activity in the government? That's crazy. Nobody can believe this. Anyways, at least one federal judge appears ready to issue such a citation in a high-profile immigration case involving the administration. I believe this... They might be talking about an injunction that already got issued. Let's see. Erwin Chemerinsky? No, maybe not. Maybe I'm thinking of a different judge. The dean of the University of California, Berkeley School of Law wrote that judges could get around the provision for future cases, but hundreds of existing court orders of all sorts, covering all sorts of subjects, including many lawsuits against Trump's policies, would become unenforceable. And that's the point. You know, neutering the executive or the judiciary in their attempts to slow down or otherwise deal with the executive. Became the very thing you swore to destroy? Not necessarily. The experiment of America was never democracy. Democracy was already a known quantity, and, like, we knew that it worked. The experiment of America, like, was basically capitalism in the new world. Like, capitalism was already developing in Europe. America just didn't like that we were on the receiving end of the capitalism instead of the giving end. Like, you know, we were upset that we were the ones being exploited along with all the, like, swarthy Africans and Indians, like American Indians, instead of the people doing all the exploiting of the swarthy American Indians and Africans and stuff. This is what happens when, like, there's no more room for capitalism to do things. You know? Like, basically, you know, it sounds rote. And there's plenty of people that have said this plenty of times, apart from myself. But, like, this kind of fascism is all for the benefit of, like, oligarchs and the business class. The oligarchical class that sits atop even the business class. Because it's like, they basically, you know, ran out of things to exploit. So now capitalism is cannibalizing itself. It literally, it's like capitalism has run out of steam. So they're trying to create new steam by lighting the domestic political environment on fire. You know? Hopefully I'm making sense when I say that. Holy shit, everybody's absolutely going through it at the finish line. Yeah. To a certain extent, it's like, this is a certified Marx moment. Notice your Discord has 7 members? Yes, that's true. This is like a certified, I'm gonna fucking turn into a Marxist moment. Like, you guys know what my political leanings are, but, like, a lot of the things we're seeing get fucking so bad that they come to a head, effectively, right, like, today, are seeds that have existed since the inception of this country. Like, these are phenomena that are, like, very, very deeply baked into a capitalist political economy, right? Like the consolidation of wealth and capital into the hands of private actors, it was always going to result in things going really bad in a manner reminiscent of this. You know? Let's see. Transformed social safety net programs. Oh, transformed. How very centrist of you, Guardian. Republicans have attempted to cut down on the bill's cost by slashing 2 major federal safety net programs. Medicaid, which provides healthcare to poor and disabled Americans, and SNAP, food stamps. The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which helps people afford groceries. Both are in for funding cuts, as well as new work requirements. Guys, this is something that's also partially Democrats' fault. Workfare, the concept of workfare, instituting work requirements for welfare was a creation of the Clintonite Democrats in the 1990s. The Republicans beforehand were perfectly content to just cut those programs and destroy them outright. It had to be the fucking neo-libs that they worked with in Congress that introduced the idea of, like, basically slowly hollowing them out by requiring people to, like, put themselves in an eternal state of, like, labor peonage to even be eligible for those programs in the first place. You know? And Medicaid, God, Medicaid and SNAP are already, like, really fucking meager social programs. If you've read, one of the required readings for my sociology class was something called Nickel and Dimed. And truly, that's what is happening, is that, like, if you are at a level of economic instability and insecurity that you depend on these programs, they truly do nickel and dime you for like really, really hard. It is extremely difficult to try to rely on these programs to survive. That like it's already not much, and they're cutting it even harder, which means that like people are gonna die. When when we say that like, oh yeah, people are gonna die because of this bill, like there are some, in some context you could read that as sounding just like really rote and kind of like, oh, you're just quoting like a movie script or whatever. No, like this is a concrete way in which people will perish, will die because of the passage of a bill like this, because there are literally life-saving welfare programs that are going to be defunded. What happens when there's not enough money to support these life-saving welfare programs? Well, fewer people's lives are saved, which means more people die. All that with the stroke of a pen. The Urban Institute think tank believes, based on analysis of similar policy, these could remove as many as 5.2 million people from Medicaid, while the left-leaning Center on Budget and Policy Priorities forecasts about a quarter of SNAP recipients could leave the program. 25%! Jesus! Nearly 11 million people. That's 16 million people that are going to be knocking on death's door. You're talking about programs where if you do any sort of job, they'll cut the funding, because that's what system I'm on right now. Above for context. Yeah, work requirements basically means that, like, if you're unemployed, you're not eligible for welfare programs. Which kind of defeats, which is the point of work requirements, and it also defeats the purpose of welfare programs, right? More benefits for the rich than the poor. Wealthier taxpayers appear set to receive more benefits from this bill than poorer ones. You don't say. Taxpayers with the highest incomes will see their household resources increase by 4% in 2027 and 2% in 2033, largely due to the extended tax cuts the CBO estimated earlier this week. The poorest taxpayers would see their resources drop by 4% in 2033, largely due to the downsized benefit programs, according to the office. I don't know how they're measuring this, and these sound like very conservative numbers, as in they're not trying to like project or speculate too hard. Sorry, excuse me. Jesus. I haven't been sick for like a week, but this annoying ass cough still will not go away. I'm the opposite, where if I get any store job, they're like, nope, no more money. Yeah, there are some welfare programs in America that are like that. We have a completely incoherent and like fucking dystopian, like misanthropic welfare system, where there are some welfare programs like Medicaid that you are only eligible for. Like, the work requirements for certain welfare programs is that you have to have like a wage job in order to be eligible to receive support. But there are also means testing requirements for stuff. I think actually Medicaid is subject to both of these requirements, like on both ends. If you make too much money or you own too much in assets, you are no longer eligible for Medicaid. And I believe it's a pitifully small amount. Like, if you own more than $2,000 in like things, then you're not eligible for Medicaid. Don't know how to make a resume, and I don't know how to get a job. I'm so screwed. That's fine. Nobody who knows how to make a resume can get a job either. For me, it's $1,000. Okay, yeah, $1,000. Even crueler than I remember it being. Liberals are just nicer versions of conservatives, to be honest. Yeah. Don't tell anyone I'm hiding money. It's fine, I won't. Don't worry about it. I'm not a narc. The end of Biden's green energy incentives. Ah, yes. The bill will phase out tax incentives created by Congress. I fucking hate neolibs. They can only think of things in terms of like tax cuts and tax incentives. During Joe Biden's presidency, meant to encourage consumers and businesses to use electric cars and other clean energy technology. Credits for cleaner cars will end this year, and incentives for wind and solar energy will only be able for projects that begin construction 60 days after the bill's enactment and enter service by 2028. Clean energy manufacturing tax credits will be axed by 2031, while Americans seeking to upgrade their homes to cleaner or more energy efficient appliances will get no further subsidy after the end of this year. It, like, this, even even viewing this from the neoliberal lens, the thing that I hate neoliberals for is they view everything as a money-making operation, which you could theoretically do some version of green energy subsidy as, right? Like, you could upgrade the infrastructure of America with some fiddly neoliberal tax incentives that puts money in the pocket of businesses that are like converting stuff from fossil fuel energy to green energy, and, you know, sort of modernize the country a little bit and put money in people's pockets, like or not in people's pockets, in companies' pockets, right? Of course, that was never going to happen because, you know, those companies are doing just fine on their fucking fossil fuel shit, and you know, their energy consumption and energy consumption needs kind of runs counter to that. But, like, it's just it's just an opposition to anything good happening that is motivating this, right? Like, you can do something good in the, like, most evil corporate dystopian capitalism washed way possible, and that's still not good enough for conservatives, because that's the only, like, that's the most that Democrats are capable of, is this fiddly neoliberalism that's all about, like, beefing up the business class. It basically, the philosophy of the Democrats is effective altruism, is what I'm saying. But even that's not evil enough for Republicans. So they're like, no, actually, you're only allowed to, you know, no more subsidies for green energy. In fact, you're only allowed to build, like, I don't know, gas guzzling shit or something. That's not part of this bill. But it's the kind of logic that they're operating on, right? And here I am sounding incoherent, because, you know. Third place. Got someone in Progressive Victory how to make a resume, see how it goes. Yeah, reach out to people that you know, or people you feel like could help you in the community. They view humans as literal tools. If you're poor, they think you're subhuman, which implies they view humans, which they don't. What? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a core part of the neoliberal worldview is to only view humans as a unit of production. And that transcends even socioeconomic policymaking. It goes down to the cultural level. There's a, like, cultural neoliberal rot that pervades throughout this whole country, and to a lesser extent throughout the whole world, where people's usefulness and value, the value of a human life, is measured in dollars, right? Like, entire communities have been destroyed along those lines, you know? And they continue to be. Tried, in real life, helping me make a resume, but they're all too busy. I've asked for years, 3 years to be exact. Jesus. Yeah. One thing that's really useful, start with one of the templates on Microsoft Word. Microsoft Word actually has resume templates. You can just make one from that template, and you'll probably be good to go, at least to start with. That's some advice that I can offer. My resume that I have applied to jobs with, that I actually got a job with, was built just from a Microsoft Word template. Can I have a link? They're integrated into Microsoft Word. All you have to do is, I think you just open up Microsoft Word, like the desktop app or whatever, and there will be templates for a resume, like when you make a new document. How do I open Microsoft Word? I don't know if I can help you there. Are you, like, on a laptop or something? If you're using Windows, you can just search for Microsoft Word in, like, the Windows search bar. How do I open Word? Yeah. May or may not be the kids are cooked moment, but eh. I mean, I guess what can you expect, right? When it's like fucking, the entire world is atomized to the level of, like, fuck you, do it yourself, right? It's kind of what I was describing, like the same thing that leads to people having trouble making a resume and finding a job ever is the same thing that leads to, like, yeah, you know what, poor people don't need to live, right? We can just cut Medicaid, like, that's fine. Don't worry about it. Never look up stuff on Google because I'm afraid of viruses. Should get an ad block or something. Oop. Oh, it's only lap 2. I thought it was lap 3, and I was like, I might be screwed. But no, I'm not. But yeah, there do just be viruses fucking everywhere. Online. Although Windows Defender is actually pretty good. If you're running Windows, the integrated antivirus software is surprisingly good at catching those nowadays. The ads keep getting worse and worse. Yeah, the internet is basically unusable if you don't have an ad blocker of some kind. Personally, I use Ad Nauseam, which is it's almost like it's not just an ad blocker, but it's like a comprehensive anti-advertising tool that fills up, like, it does something like fills up advertisers with junk traffic and ends up costing them a lot of money. So it's like a very well-optimized middle finger to online advertisers that makes it literally impossible for them to advertise to you. Increased debt ceiling. The debt limit will increase by 4 trillion. Great. Predicted the government would hit the limit by August. Ooh. Ooh. Honestly, fuck it. Bring on the financial crisis at this point. Like, the quicker this system collapses under its own weight, the quicker there's some possibility of building a fucking better incentive structure from the ashes, basically. Because here's the thing, right? Like, we constantly talk about the economy as if everybody... There's the assumption that everybody's working a job, and that job is, like, a 9 to 5, basically. Like, the standard assumption, even if you're working as a contractor or as a non-standard version of, like, an employee. Googled it, I don't know which link to click. Let me open Microsoft Word right now. Okay, Word is opening. Search for online templates. Resume. Okay, great. So you just go into... All right, I've done this myself. If you open Microsoft Word, there should be on the menu where it's like, oh yeah, create a new document, there should be a search bar where it says search thousands of online templates. If you just type the word resume in the Microsoft Word search bar, it'll give you a bunch of different templates of resumes that you can use for adding details for your education and job experience and whatever, to the extent that you have that. And then you can just open one of those, and any one of them is fine. Like, you know how there's a if you're running Windows, which I am assuming that you'd be running Windows, you have the Windows icon on the bottom of your screen, and there is a little magnifying glass icon next to it. That is the search. That is the search bar. If you just open the search bar and type in Microsoft Word, that will bring up Microsoft Word, and then you open Microsoft Word and you search resume. And that's it. And then you get all those resume templates. You can pick which one you like. And then you just kind of start working from there. Whoa, that worked. Damn. Kind of was not expecting for that to work. Oh, they did the sand hop. That was a tricky angle. I didn't go inside like they did because I was afraid they might have an item and try to hit me. But yeah, to address the sort of owarida shaped elephant in the room, you know, because I'm sure people are wondering if America is over as a result of the passage of the bill. It wants me to pay for stuff. Don't pay for stuff. If I'm not mistaken, Google Docs might also have a set of resume templates to choose from. But yes, for the people wondering, America is in fact over. It's been I'd say it's been a good run, but like it kind of hasn't. Well, for some of us, it's been a good run. You know, the Socialists had a good run. The Black Panthers had a good run. You know. But now the fucking legacy of Lyndon Johnson and FDR is like hobbling along on its last legs. God, it's crazy how much the 20th and 21st century of the United States were carried solely by FDR and Lyndon Johnson. Like all of the skeleton, the skeletal social infrastructure that kept America chugging throughout the 20th century and up until this point has been solely the accomplishments of the Roosevelt administrations and the Lyndon Johnson administration. And throughout the entire history of those programs existing, of those political initiatives existing, Republicans and businessmen and Democrats, the entire politically active and wealthy classes have been united, almost singularly so, in their opposition to anything good attached to the name Franklin Delano Roosevelt or Lyndon B. Johnson. Right? All the while, they recognize to have any success in subverting those political projects, projects of labor organizing, projects of social welfare, of accessible medical care, of college, right? In order to subvert that, they have to pay lip service to the things that they're destroying. And this is kind of the end state of that. They no longer feel like they have to pay lip service to the things that they're destroying because they're such shells of their former selves, right? And because they have basically unchecked power to destroy Medicaid, destroy Medicare, destroy, you know, the NLRB as well. I think I saw a the Supreme Court recently ruled that Trump does in fact have the authority to just fire all the directors of the National Labor Relations Board. Again, that's something that FDR did. He pressured Congress. He fucking strong-armed people. He threatened their like political careers and whatever to get the National Labor Relations Act passed in 1930, I think, 7. And as a result of the National Labor Relations Act, we got the National Labor Relations Board, which was the first time in American history that the working class has had an institutional inroad to the federal government. And now they're taking that away. All doing it while Trump has a fucking portrait of FDR in his office. Like, they're spitting on the legacy of whatever meager things that social democracy was capable of doing and did, like, actually accomplish in the time that it was, like, in its ideological prime, you know? This is a large part of why people don't believe in the future. As recently as like the 90s, people believed in the future, kind of. You know? There's just no future to believe in anymore. Yes, exactly what I wanted. Let's go. Doesn't help when I try to ask people for stuff related to jobs. Average person looks at me funny. Yeah, well, I mean, a large part of Generation Z is unemployed anyway. Or underemployed. A lot of this has rested on the assumption, like I said, how neoliberalism, the ideology that makes this possible, this level of misanthropy, views people as units of production and not living beings with interests and desires and lives to live. Uh, uh, Took me 2 minutes, but found a thing that says resume. That's good. A lot of this has rested on the assumption, characteristic of, neolibs, assuming that humans are just units of production, nothing more, that you would have a job where you work 40 hours a week. That standard was established 85 years ago. Do you know all the technology we didn't fucking have 85 years ago? All the shit, like all the production that we couldn't do 85 years ago, all of the economic efficiency that has been wrung out of like whatever productive processes really exist over the past 85 years. America was still like a burgeoning manufacturing power when that standard was set. America was not even the global hegemon, like not even close, when the 40-hour work week was established as standard. And since then, we've almost exclusively gotten evidence every time that we have studied the effect of how much time people work in a week, that 40 hours is actually too much. Not just in terms of people's health, right? We know that 40 hours is an unhealthy amount of time per week for people to be working. You can work significantly less, or rather should be working significantly less to basically have like a life and energy outside of work. Like, we know that from studies, but we also know, again, from like studies on economic productivity, that the sort of quality of life does not meaningfully depreciate or change in any way if people work even half the time that they're working now. People could be working 20 hours per week or less and the same level of real production and economic activity could be maintained. It is purely because of some mindless adherence to the concept of like work as a virtue and work as like the sole purpose of human beings that doesn't happen. Like, and I know that there are issues with people like not really using their leisure time for much stuff as well, and that should absolutely be addressed. There's like a discussion to be had with that, right? But like, for shit's sake, we are overworked. Like, people who work as Uber drivers or whatever, like people who work gig jobs or even a minimum wage job. God, it's fucking difficult for people to get minimum wage jobs nowadays. People are experiencing burnout as early as their 20s. People younger than me experiencing burnout because they're working 40 hours or more per week. In fact, if anything, the average amount of time people have been working per week has actually increased. And I think it speaks to not like an extraction of profit necessarily, right? Like, we know that that's how business operates even when there's like a 32 or 35 hour work week. I think it speaks to a broader alienation, like a dehumanization that like is part and parcel to basically a good 2/3 of your waking life just being about work that doesn't mean anything and is functionally just kind of kept up for the sake of it. Yes, for street address, you put where you live. That's actually largely a deprecated feature of resumes, but back in the day, they would actually you would get mail, like physical mail. So if they ever, on the off chance they ever need to mail you something, then that is relevant information. But you guys know what I mean? That like there's a profound sense of like inhumanity in 40 hours of work being maintained as the standard just for the sake of 40 hours of work per week being maintained as the standard, right? There's not really a good reason for it. We don't have to be working 40 hours a week. In fact, there were various studies done on like the effects of digitization in the late 70s and early 80s, where economists were speculating that like, yeah, based on our findings and how easy like the electric typewriter makes things, you could be working 10 hours per week, and you would get the same amount of things done. The same amount of work that was being done in the 1970s was made so much easier by the electric typewriter, which is basically just a keyboard, a modern keyboard, right? That made work so much easier that you could do the same amount of work in a quarter of the time. But we didn't work for a quarter of the hours, did we? People didn't work 30 hours less in their 40-hour jobs, did they? No, they kept working 40 hours. We just found more and more, like, increasingly meaningless work for people to be doing. We bureaucratized everything further. We made everything about meetings and shareholder value and fucking, like, you know, networking and fucking undersecretary to the vice president of such and such, right? You know? So much of the work that people are forced to do at the threat of deprivation, very real threat of economic and physical deprivation, straight up doesn't need to happen, like, at all. You know? That's what all this is about. There's a fundamental dehumanization that leads to, like, politics being centered around this stuff. And it's why, you know, work requirements get put into a bill like this that's cutting Medicaid. Even if it's like, you know, when Medicaid doesn't directly get cut, they incorporate a work requirement because it's like, oh yeah, people are too lazy. They should be working more. No, motherfucker. We should be doing less work. We should be figuring out how to fucking live our lives and not, like, you know, throwing it all down at the altar of business as usual. But that's what America's prepared to do. America went fascist. You know, the fascists took over America precisely because both Republicans and Democrats were competing in how willing they were and in what way they were willing to throw everything down at the altar of work as usual, like business as usual. Even in the meager labor rights advocacy and the meager, you know, union politics that we got from the Democrats while Joe Biden was in office, you know, the crumbs, even that was sort of like tainted by the assumption that, like, well, of course you're just gonna work a 40-hour per week job with, like, standard benefits and stuff, right? Like, the fundamental nature of work has yet to change. It really needs to. You know, there's an underlying slavishness to work. What do I put for city? Either the town, city, or county that you live. So, like, for me, since I live in Arlington, I would put Arlington at that spot on my resume. How do I figure that out? Do you not know the town that you live in? Or, like, the county that you live in? I mean, you could go to Google Maps. Don't leave my house too much? That's fair. You could go to Google Maps and put in your street address and it'll show you. As part of having a street address is that it has to be incorporated into map data. So if you punch in a street address, and you sort of look at the surrounding area, it'll tell you what that area is called. If I'm to wrap up this segment, right? The big, beautiful bill. We've had too many big, beautiful bills. We've had too many BBBs. We've had too many farmer villager parties. We've had too many, you know, capitalists pretending to be socialists. We've had too many liberals saying we don't need to fundamentally change anything. We've had too many concessions to a class of people that fundamentally just hates all of us and life. We've had too many concessions to a system that fundamentally doesn't value human life as a concept, that doesn't value art or education or learning or all the things that make life interesting and fun. We've had too many concessions away from a fulfilling life. And this bill is like part of that, right? Oh yeah, it's not enough that people are already languishing in a state of poverty, hopelessness, and a wretched baseline existence. We need to make their life worse. We need to give even more tax cuts to the people that don't need any fucking money, and we need to gut the social welfare programs that poor people rely on for a basic subsistence level of life, right? We've had too much of that. And frankly, I think it's time for socialism. I think it's time for some big booty bitches. We need to get the better BBB in here, all right? Fucking, if this becomes a segment, I might make this into a YouTube segment. People, put in the comments, I'm ready, if you're fucking ready for the big booty bitches, alright? We need to enter the big booty bitches chapter of history, right? Both in that there need to be more of them, and we need to start becoming the big booty bitches, to spite, you know, to spite everybody. You know, because I guess this is kind of indicative of capitalism not just being a socio-economic phenomenon, but also being a socio-cultural phenomenon. And that's kind of what allows this to be considered just reasonable shit. Like this big, beautiful bill. This is, like, not all that unusual for what Republicans and Democrats have both worked together on for decades. The only difference is that now it's, like, kind of Trumpified because they called it the big, beautiful bill. Fuck that. Fuck the big, beautiful bill. Give me some big booty bitches. Alright, that's enough. Future me, cut the segment. Need a box. Yeah. Nice. I'm gonna use this starting at the turn here. Yeah. Well, I can plow through the crowd here. Third place? Not bad. Oh, fourth. I'm still alright with that. Yay. Got a picture of one of the resume, what the resume is asking for on Discord, funnily enough. It does have my name on it. Let me see. Let me see this. Skills, company name. Through your street, your city. State. Oh, yeah. That's, yeah, so for the section where it says 123 your street, that's where you would put your street address. Instead of 123 your street, it reads your street address. And then your city, comma, ST 12345, that means your city, the state that city is in, and then the zip code. You know? And then the next two are pretty standard, phone number and email. I put my address after my name. I was not supposed to do that. No. Where it says, hello, I'm your name, you would put your name where it says your name, right? It's like you're filling in, like, it's just a sample document, and you fill in the sample bits with the information that's relevant to you. So you put your name, and then where it says, where it has the sample street address, you put instead your street address, which would be a real street address, and then city, comma, state, zip code, that would be your city, your state, your zip code, and so on. Put your name, then hit enter. You might, it's actually, I don't think you're supposed to hit enter. I think what you're supposed to do is use the mouse cursor for most of it, right? Like, you highlight where it says your name, and then you replace that text, and then you highlight the, street address, and you replace that text with what your street address is. Nightmare, what's the difference between a house address and the street address? It's the same thing. That's when it says street address, the street address and the house address are the same thing. So if you're living in an apartment, that's what you would put. You would put the apartment number 2. It's just your address. Whether it says like permanent address or street address, it's talking about the same information. Why don't they teach people this in school? They did teach me this in school. Did they not teach you? If that's the case, then the answer for why don't they teach people this is that they used to, but now the education system is cooked. Yeah, no, they taught me how to fill out a resume in school. So there, I guess you have your answer, because education is cooked, and you know, none of the legislators or politicians care anymore. I guess. I don't know. I learned the only way I know harassing enough people till someone teaches me. That's the spirit. That's the spirit. Is Anchorage a city? Yes, in fact. I believe it's the biggest city in Alaska. So if you live in Anchorage, you would put Anchorage, comma, Alaska, and then the zip code. How do I find out my zip code? You just put your street address into the search bar, and then write zip code after it. It'll show you your zip code. Yeah. See, I did it with my address just now. You couldn't see it, but you just put that into Google, and it'll show you what zip code. It'll tell you what zip code that address is in. And like I said, that's important for mailing information. I understand you don't want to dox yourself. Yeah, especially because that other segment I did, I already kind of doxed myself in order to make that segment something that I could do. You know, I already mentioned that I live in Arlington, Virginia. It's like, I kind of don't want to go... I don't want to dox myself harder. It's like, here are the fucking exact street address, zip code, and like a picture of my actual house or some shit, right? Like, you know. Ow. Get me out of there? Okay. Oh no. Well, at least I get a box here. And I'll get big relatively quick. Yeah. Okay. Take this aside. I hate that when I put my cursor on top of the document, it hides my cursor. Yeah, that's usually pretty annoying when you use Microsoft Word. It's not the most user-friendly thing, but, you know. It's kind of like Microsoft cornered the market, so there's not much you can do. You know, you kind of have to do that or either Google Docs or something. Oh yeah, another thing I wanted to, that I probably need to include in the editing for that segment, but the segment's done. I should mention that this bill, the big beautiful bill, passed by 1 vote. Which means that, you know that Democratic representative who died? He's from my state, by the way. Jerry Connolly is a representative from Virginia. He even represents an area that's close to the area where I live. That actually made the difference. If he was alive, then it's possible that the bill would not have passed. Now, of course, because it's Congress, there's also other things that could be at play. For example, the rotating villain strategy, where, like, you know, some Democrat, there's always conveniently just enough Democrats to defect over to the Republican side, either to pass something really fucking bad or to stop something good from passing, you know? So that undoubtedly also plays a role, but Connolly dying also, like, it's just another fucking slap in the face. Were they Democrat or Republican? Jerry Connolly was a Democrat. In fact, there are 6 politicians that have died in America, like Congress people who have died in the past year in America, and I believe all of them were Democrats. Legitimately, the gerontocracy, the rule by the old people, is much more of a problem with the Democrats than with the Republicans. You know, because the Republicans have realized that you have to put the youngest, most ideologically devoted people at the front lines of your political efforts, which means that they have to be the people in Congress as well. You know, think Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, Josh Hawley. You know, these are like relatively young as politicians go, especially in America, you know. And then, God, on the Democratic side, you get people like Jerry Connolly, fucking Mark Warner, Tim Kaine, and Don Beyer, who I think are all older than 70. You know? Almost. Almost got him with that. Phone number and email. Now it's asking for skills. I don't know what to put. That's the part where you engage in what I call corpo speak. Where, you know, it's like skills that would be relevant to the workplace. So, like, time management, capability to work in a group, good people skills, good communication skills, that sort of thing. Those are some boilerplate ones that usually if you, you know, you spend some time on the PV Discord or like doing phone banking, or you get out to the food bank every now and again, you'll have skills like that. You know, you'll know how to function in a group environment. And sometimes, depending on your educational background, there are some skills that you'll have that's relevant to what you learned in school. For example, if I were applying to jobs where I was an archaeological tech, like if I were applying to a job at a place that did archaeology, right? Like maybe a government office somewhere where I would be an archaeological field tech. They wouldn't take me because they don't take anybody with less than a fucking master's degree, but nevertheless, for the sake of the example, then I would put that I'm trained in archaeological field methods. I would put like proficient in archaeological field practice or something like that. Or, you know, for a job in a grocery store or somewhere where I'd have to be doing lifting, I would probably list that I'm in good health and that I can lift and push and do physical manual labor as needed. That's something that I would do, that you could put there. And in fact, in my case, because I do a lot of video editing, I actually put video editing as one of the skills that I have. You know, because I use DaVinci Resolve, which is what professionals use. I'm not a professional. In fact, that I'm self-taught and an amateur, quite frankly. But I do put that I have video editing skills because you know, I have a repertoire doing that for YouTube, and I actually had an internship at the beginning of last year. Early 2024, I had an unpaid internship working for an Indian news company, of all places. Young can work with other people. Yeah, just the part about like working with other people. That's a start, you know, and you can come back to it, obviously. Working on a resume is a process, right? Like, resumes were not built in a day. Believe me when I say this. I have 4 different resumes that I use for different certain, like, specialized scenarios, and a 5th resume that acts as a template for those other 4 that I build on every now and again. And, you know, each one of those resumes is updated as I, like, do different things either at my job or, like, I get a different job or something like that, you know? So like every couple of months, I'll go back and add some sort of detail to the resumes that I have, you know? And all of them are truthful, of course. Like, you don't take too many liberties on your resume. Obviously, you don't have to be like, you don't have to be brutally honest on your resume, because like the expectation is that you'll sort of talk yourself up a little bit. You know, and of course places will fucking lie on the job application, right? About what they expect from you. But yeah, making a resume takes time. In fact, I think it took me about a year and a half to put together, to get enough information to understand how to put together my first functional resume. And that was a literal physical copy. It was a piece of paper. And it was not actually built from a template. And then the next resume, which became the several resumes that I currently have, that took me about a year to make. You know, the first version I did in a few weeks, but yeah. At my school, it was basic math, basic science. How do I save the information? There should be in Microsoft Word. Let me open this on up. Let me just open up a blank document so I can see what we're working with. At the top left, there should be a little icon that looks like a floppy disk. And if you hover over it, it will say save. And if you click that, it's Google. Oh, if you're on Google Docs, then things will save automatically. Or if it doesn't save automatically, you can actually, if you close out, if you attempt to close, it'll give you a check. How do you check without closing? If you hold the control key and you you hold control and press S. That's the shortcut. That's the keyboard shortcut to save, almost universally. In any document software, if you click Control S, or I guess on a MacBook it would be Command S, then that is the save button. And you can save your work that way. Ah, he wheelie bumped me. My younger brother, I feel sorry for him because he thinks money is a luxury and he doesn't need a job. Yeah, I don't know what to say. Like, you know, somebody's gonna have to hold his hand while they say something, you know. Oh shit, this Dragonite is out for blood, man. I respect the grind. Oh shit. Okay, that's sailing on past me. Oh, okay. He's over 20, just to let you know. Yeah, yeah. Still, I think somebody's gonna have to hold his hand when they say something. No, don't squish me. Okay. Man, that was rough. One mushroom? Man. People must be holding power items, I guess. No, he took my box. Oh, no. If I passed... What? I didn't pass anybody? That's... lame. Alright. I was going to talk about Eurovision, but I think I'm going to wait to do that for a stream when I'm not destroying the Eurobros sleep schedules. There's still voters that are like, I would vote for him again. Yeah, and the reason that is, it's ridiculously simple. The cultural apathy runs really deep, and I think for a lot of people, they might not even like what Donald Trump is doing, but they like that he's doing something. And for them, that's enough. And, you know, when you're faced with the Democratic Party of today and the kind of candidates, the kind of messaging they put forward, it's hard not to see the argument that they're making. Like, yeah, Donald Trump does stuff. That's a little psychotic. Yeah, well, I mean, neoliberalism makes fucking psychopaths of us all, doesn't it? You know? And, you know, you could attribute that to a series of systemic failures as well, but at the core of it, I think that's what, like, Donald Trump is, like, the main character, and he does things, you know? And that's what people like about him. That's why people continue to support him. And there are, to this day, there are liberals who are arguably more psychotic that don't understand that. That don't understand that people are tired of nothing happening. Of, like, or at least nothing good happening. You know? And they would rather, like, if life is going to be terrible, I would rather it be terrible and eventful and interesting rather than this unidentifiable gray mush of societal decline that I'm forced to swallow day in and day out as my life devolves into nothingness. You know? Like, legitimately, when I say that Democrats need an FDR, I'm referring to the threats and like, borderline corruption as well. Because you know what FDR also was, in addition to being a base social democrat? He was the main character, and he did stuff, you know? Quite controversial stuff, in fact. And I think we need somebody like that. We need somebody who's willing to just fucking flip out, go Joker mode, and be like, I will threaten everyone in the government until, like, everybody gets food for free, you know? Like, if people are willing to put up with Trump just because he does stuff, imagine what people will put up with if somebody doesn't just do stuff, but does good stuff, you know? Visibly good stuff. Some liberals literally think in poverty for themselves is physically impossible because they try. They would treat that person like Jesus? Yes, they would. In that, probably the fucking wealthy classes and consultants and liberal pundits would try to fucking crucify them, and the people would be like, no, hold on, he's cooking. Let him cook. Oh, yeah, some liberals think poverty's for people who don't try. Yeah, there is that fundamental misunderstanding of sociological, or not social, of material forces that can produce poverty no matter how hard some people try. And for a lot of people, like, sure, it is possible to get out of poverty if you try hard enough. The problem is, number one, that bar is unreasonably high. The bar of, quote-unquote, trying hard enough is more than you should be, like, more than anybody should be expected to do, right? Regardless of whether or not it's possible, which it is. And then, secondly, it misses the point that, like, something has to have gone very wrong at a systemic level at no fault of, like, any of these individuals for that many people to be poor in the first place. Poverty at the level of millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions, billions worldwide is not a skill issue on the part of the people who are poor. But liberals treat it that way because they are the system, and a fish cannot see when they're in water. Legitimately, liberals trying to, like, I give all the credit in the world to liberals that are trying to understand what's wrong with the system around them, because it's like a fish trying to learn what water looks like. It's hard. They'd rather admit that the human race is bad than admit their system is bad. Yes, they would rather, like, they would rather say we should just, like, let it all die. Like, maybe humanity was just a rotten experiment from the start. They would rather reach that conclusion than speak negatively of capitalism. You know? And when I say they, I'm referring to, like, Ezra Klein tier people, like not your fucking regular ass liberal that really hates Trump, because regular ass liberals that really hate Trump will probably be able to see the connections that he has to like every single business in America, and they'll be like, yeah, something's wrong there. You know, something's wrong when all these fucking business oligarch magnates are fucking ruling the country with an iron fist to make money, hand over fist, and, you know, don't give a shit what happens to everybody else. You know, maybe somebody ought to do something about that. You know? And I give a lot of credit to those liberals, because, you know, radicalization is good, actually. Yeah, the average people very readily develop awareness in certain ways, because it like, in certain ways, it really is a trial by fire. Let me use this here. That skips the mushroom, at least. I can make it around this corner, catch up to people. People have to learn to suck up to their bosses, otherwise it's homelessness for them. Yeah, kind of. It's like and not even necessarily just directly to their supervisors. There's actually, funnily enough, I've found that based on like experiences I've had and mostly secondhand experience, like what people who have jobs like that have told me, there's less of an expectation that you suck up directly to your boss or your supervisor. More so, there's the expectation that you suck up to the corporate structure as a whole, as a unit. Like, you know, basically you be a good little wage worker and like don't get too uppity, don't try to unionize or do any of that troublesome stuff. Just, you know, go to work, clock in, clock out, you know, and don't take like longer than 30 minutes on your lunch break or something. I don't know. It's but yeah, broadly, you kind of like that's part of, I guess, the alienation that people experience, is that you really have to debase yourself to these structures of power that fucking hate you with all their fiber, that would just as soon get rid of you, that have acted on a political scale to implement laws just to make it easier to get rid of employees, like at the snap of a finger. I live in one such state. Virginia is a right-to-work and at-will employment state. My employer could fire me, or anybody's employer could fire them for no cause, no reason, or any reason at all. They can fire you for unionizing. That's legal in the state of Virginia. They can fire you for being black in the state of Virginia. They can fire you for being gay in the state of Virginia. They could fire you because they don't like your tone in the state of Virginia. And there are a number of states like that because they hate you. You could tell based on Luigi how quickly the average person was ready for violence. Oh, yeah. The average person is, God, remember that, you know, the assassination of attempt on Trump, which was fake and, of course, didn't happen. You know, we all know that those photos were, you know, AI generated. But, like, that stuff happened, and then the polls fucking didn't move. And then, like, I think it was SDL posted, like, I'm the median voter and I love political violence or some shit. Median voters are down for political violence, you know? Like, it seems like, in retrospect, the tone struck by the Democrats was really, really tone deaf. Where it was like, oh, you know, we disavow violence against our political opponents. No, fuck that. People love that shit. You know, if we're going, like, if we're playing the game that is politics, and you have to, in order to be viable in politics, you gotta appeal to a crowd of people that really fucking likes political violence. You just have to direct that sentiment to somewhere where it is well suited to make somebody's life a lot better. You know? Which means, basically, you have to start being like, yeah, what if we, like, redacted Jeff Bezos or something? You know? Because clearly people are, like, down with that when it happens to Brian Thompson or Donald Trump. It's just the politicians aren't, because they know that they might be one of the people that it happens to. When liberals figured that out, I bet they were like, oh my god. Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, like, the people who are reacting that way, like, there aren't that many self-described socialists in America. I guess, you know, more than there used to be, for sure. But, like, a lot of the people who are like, I'm the median voter and I fucking love political violence, were liberals. Talking the ones on top. Oh, yeah. The punditry, because they're in on it, they're in on the game. They're in on the, I guess, the grift, the scam that we're all, like, the butt of the joke for. They were like, oh, fuck, oh, no. That's true. In some ways, yeah, you could argue that the average person may be, like, too incoherent to even classify as liberal, like, one way or the other, right? It's like the liberalism by osmosis. They just kind of absorb the ideology that's around them. All right. Get me past some people. Yay. All right. We'll try to do one more race. I want to have a one that I feel like pretty good about, you know? I did. Oh yeah, I also saw recently. This is me just being a super derivative streamer. I was watching the Voss stream and saw that segment about how, like, even college level, like, English literature majors can't fucking read, like, are functionally illiterate. And I gotta be honest, it had two effects on me, right? Or three, I suppose. Number one, I had the predictable reaction of, like, Jesus fucking Christ, that's bleak, you know? And, like, obviously this is a consequence of people being viewed as units of production and nothing more, is that education, which is a spiritually and holistically enriching experience unto itself, I believe, it is, like, basically cast aside and hollowed out from every conceivable direction until this is the result. You just have the shell of an education system. You know, that was reaction number one. Reaction number two, it made me feel a lot better about my level of education and the kind of stuff that I read and how, basically, like, how smart I view myself to be. It made me feel better about myself in a kind of twisted way, you know? And the third thing was that it actually gave me a drive to keep learning, to keep reading. Because I was reminded that, like, I felt really bad about, like, people being illiterate, and that, like, how this is kind of a recent phenomenon, like, it wasn't always like this, you know, and it made me want to, like, it made me see the value again in just, like, being educated for the sake of being educated, you know, or learning for the sake of learning, even, not even being educated, because there's not even necessarily, like, I guess I do like the image of myself as a smart person, but that doesn't really work if I'm not genuinely, like, smart and learning stuff. And I enjoy learning stuff, first and foremost. Like, that's what I enjoy doing. In fact, I feel like I have a better time engaging with politics and discussing, and I feel like the stream is made better, as are many other things in my life, if I learn. If I learn stuff, if I am decently well-read, and, you know, that sort of thing. That was a pretty decent race. I cannot beat those allegations. Can't buy the letters to form sound to save my life, and I have had a gun pointed to my head. Yeah. Look, I'm not going to argue. I'm not gonna say, like, I still try to read and try to learn, and that's good. That's good. You know. I'm not gonna argue that this is 100% skill issue. I'm also not gonna argue that it's 0% a skill issue, because clearly it's, like, the reason that the illiteracy is sort of mounting in the 21st century is that there is obviously a lack of interest on the part of students. But I feel like, in large part, the reason that is because socially there's not enough of a structure, or we have stopped cultivating that interest. In order for people to learn about stuff, they have to be motivated to learn about stuff. Basically, they have to want to learn. And a lot of people, when they were young, can recall like being interested in stuff, really liking some stuff, whether I was like Thomas the Tank Engine or SpongeBob, or like or trains if you're autistic, or bridges, or space, like spaceships and whatever. All of that is stuff that you could be learning about. You could be learning about how the animators made SpongeBob. You could be, people could learn about like how spaceships work. I used to be that kid. I was big into aerospace engineering when I was 5 years old. I was into tornadoes. I was into hurricanes. I was into dinosaurs. And that's like a very easy jumping off point for a lot of people to start learning about things they really enjoy. But that like the education system just doesn't encourage that. In fact, I feel like there are certain ways in which you are actively dissuaded from learning or investing yourself emotionally in learning in the education system. Because it's like the job of the education system is to drill it into kids that this is just like vocational training, Oops. And so that like actively gets stifled out of people to the point that like they don't have that spark of life that would cause people to like want to learn shit. Binding two sounds together form a new sounds like magic to me. I mean, yeah, vocal cords are pretty nuts, right? That's just like human vocal range and stuff. I hit a ceiling. I hit a sign, actually. I'm driving drunk. But yeah, I think like, sure, there's some skill issue on the part of students that are like, you can't read nowadays, but I think the bulk of it still lies with the schools and the institutions that are ordinarily tasked with like ferrying people through the education system, because it's like we don't value learning in the halls of learning anymore, which is fucked up. Because learning is fun. Learning is a fun experience. I will maintain this. And the American education system, by God, they found a way to drain all the life and fun out of it by sitting kids in a chair for 7 hours straight with an adult talking at them that could be potentially the most boring thing they've ever heard, and then giving them 4 more hours of homework and sending them home for the next day. Like, that doesn't do anything for anybody, But what it does do is, well, I shouldn't say it doesn't do anything for anybody. It does produce mindless automatons of human beings, that are capable of regurgitating information, but are not adept at critical thought. That's kind of why AI exploded as hard as it did in school. The learning environment was already basically gone and just waiting for AI to swoop in and scoop out what little gray matter was left of everybody. Learning is fun. School feels like what it would feel like to go to prison, funnily enough. And that's not an accident, because schools are designed by prison companies. I'm not joking. I've had this exact experience. Public schools, particularly, are designed by the companies that build prisons. And increasingly nowadays, schools are built like prisons because of the increasing, like, the ever-present fears of, like, a mass shooting or whatever, right? There's not very much care being put into ensuring that this is a visually and like physically hospitable place for kids to be all day, like at schools, that is. People in schools, teachers and students felt like they emotionally died inside. Yeah, and like, it's really sad. It's really unfortunate, lately, in fact, I've been reading on that subject. I was reading a academic article, a study that collected both quantitative and qualitative data. So, short form and longer form questionnaire like responses and stuff about AI proliferation in places like school and fucking professional working environments, and how basically what they call cognitive offloading, basically where you delegate all the thinking tasks to AI, results in people not being able to think for themselves anymore. I think I know where I want to use this, and that is right here. Yeah! Nice. When I think about school in hindsight, it sounds like an SCP. Yeah, it kind of does feel that way. And it's not a great feeling, you know, gotta be said. That was good. Thought I heard thunder. That was not thunder, thankfully. Watching that AI segment from Mr. V, learned that Fortnite has its own version of generative AI voices now. God, that's grim. Another thing to make me feel better about not playing Fortnite. You know? Yeah. I don't know what I'm going to move on to after that. Actually, no, I do. In fact, I can actually share what I've got. There's another video. I don't know if Mr. V noticed. Yeah. I wanted to share a little bit of what might be in store for my reading projects. I recommended to somebody in the Discord some philosophy books that they might be interested in. But for me personally, I might read Sextus Empiricus. That is actually his name. He was a Roman philosopher. But I also went to a university page. You know, public universities are they're basically public in name only for the most part, because you still have to pay fucking money to go there, and they still like get most of their money from like private investors or whatever. But their curriculums are all public. You can look up, if you know like a public university website, you can go there and just look up the course material for a certain class. You can get all sorts of like educational materials for completely free. And so I figured that might be fun. I went to a intro to sociology course because I took sociology in college, but I felt like I you know, I didn't get what I could have gotten out of it. And I wanted to read some more sociological material, you know, just to see if there's anything that I missed, or if I feel like I remember what all I needed to, you know, in order to say that I'm sociologically literate, right? And I basically downloaded the syllabus and all the course materials that I could access for a 101 level sociology course. And you know, it's ready. I'm basically ready to be like a sociology student in absentia, you know? In fact, one thing that's come up lately that I might want to read more on is Marxist Marxist economics and labor vouchers. You know, especially with economic collapse looming and all this monetary policy being in the discussion, I feel like that sort of becomes more relevant, because, like, man, when you get right down to it, maybe the problem here is interest and money in general. You know, like maybe we shouldn't have that shit. You know, it's kind of cringe. And I'm sure there's, like, you know, you go to Google Scholar or JSTOR, there's plenty of stuff to be found there. And I feel like I could feel my brain getting bigger at the thought of, like, reading that stuff, which would be great. I feel like I would really benefit from doing that. And I want to share that because I talk about how I read stuff for fun, but I don't frequently talk. I guess I don't, like, always keep you guys up to date with, like, all that stuff that I'm doing. That was really good. Learned last year that if I put my phone, put in my phone or something, you can read text and from you recognizing words. What? Find it funny, after I was done with school, when the first thing I do is look for YouTubers and tell me new information. Yeah, it's like that meme, the Indian guy on YouTube who has the useful tutorial of how to do stuff, and like, that's, my phone can read words if I put it for camera. Yeah, it's called scanning. You know, printers can do that. That's a functionality that used to exist for scanning, digitizing physical documents. It's the same thing that allows your phone to read QR codes, and also the same thing, I mean, you know, that printers use. You put a physical document under the camera in range for it to see the text, and it will recognize the characters as that text. But instead of just taking a picture of it, which used to be a real issue for PDF documents, it would just be a picture in PDF format. You couldn't word search anything. It would actually select these characters and put it into a like plain text format, so that even for physical documents where you had to put a piece of paper into the printer and scan it to become a digital file, you could still use Control F and search for certain words if you needed to find something. And I remember in college, there were moments where I was really glad that existed, and also really frustrated when it wasn't implemented, because sometimes, you know, our professors were very understanding that, like, course materials were prohibitively expensive, especially for a bunch of indebted college students. So they would have, like, scans of certain chapters. They would, like, literally, they took the physical copy of the book that they owned, put it under a printer, and scanned the pages as images for us to read, so that we could all have them on our personal devices, because most of us read them, you know, electronically. And for some of them, the scanner, they like, I guess, had enough time to do the version of a scanning op where you can actually convert the image into plain text in a PDF. But for some of them, it was still just an image. I might be a little bit out for blood this session. Some word fonts get past it. Yeah, it's like there is definitely limitations to that, right? Because you know, it's easier to recognize certain more standard looking fonts that more readily conform to the shapes of the expected shapes of certain characters than others. I'm going fucking goblin mode this race. Whoa, what? That red shell wasn't even going for that guy. He used him as a human shield. That's fucked up. Ow. Hoisted by my own petard or something. Oh, okay. Turnabout's fair play. As they say. I'm in 5th place. I should get a decent enough item. Never mind. 1 red shell. Great, thanks, Mario Kart. The plight of being in a middle position. Seventh, bleh. Wait, 6th? Might have gotten 6th. Okay. I'll do one more. In fact, let me see if I can find... It should be in my documents folder. Here we go. Yeah, Emory University. Here, Emory University. Oh, never mind. Emory's actually private, but their course materials are public. Yeah, from Emory University is in Atlanta, Georgia. And so I have a bunch of, you know, I have a bunch of, like, files and web pages saved to this folder that are all component parts of this Sociology 101 course, and I'm just going to read that just because. Hello, Plum General. Welcome back. The unusual evening stream, and I'm kind of actually at the tail end of it, if you notice the timer there. So... The crash out part of the stream was earlier. You know, the BBC portion of the stream, the big, beautiful crash out, was a little bit earlier. Tariffs, AI, resumes, yeah. Lost a bet, now have to put myself through a Geometry Dash version of torture. Ah. Geometry Dash. I don't know what level from that game is particularly infamous, but I do know that there's like some levels that are really, really infamous. Although back in my day, it was back in my day, when I was in like middle and high school, I think it was people played the Impossible game, which was basically just Geometry Dash. But I don't know what happened to that game. I don't know why Geometry Dash like seemed to have passed by it. Well, okay. Barely avoided getting squished by that guy. I think I know where I want to use this Mega Mushroom. And it's right as we come up to this ramp here, because that's a very popular spot to use the shock. I'm going to use it right as I'm rounding this corner. There we go. Okay, they didn't use the shock. Interesting. Dangerous. How dangerous is going on an electronic scooter 40 miles per hour without any safety equipment? Because apparently I did that last year. Pretty fucking dangerous. If you're going more than 20 miles per hour on anything, you basically like die if you fall, even if you're not like crashing into anything. That's an okay spot to get shocked. I have to get 41 to 100 on the level, which is called Element 111 RG, which is basically an old level from 2014 that was literally impossible for its time, but got rated by Rob Top anyway because of it using blocks from 1.6 update. It got unrated because it had a secret way to cheese the level, and people had spent literal hundreds of hours and multiple years searching for the real level. Interesting. I did this in front of a Fred Meyers? What the fuck? Did you get like a parking ticket or something? Or not parking, a speeding ticket? There's a mountain right next to it. I see. Yeah, I guess the police department's got to make those quotas. No? Oh, okay. Well, wear a helmet next time. I keep asking for one good race, and I keep like not getting it. I don't know. Maybe my bar is just too high. This is probably going to be the last one, though. Because it's over 2 hours now. Not kidding. The level's so elusive that we've been hunting since 2019. We only have 12% of level as being confirmed as being real. We're pretty sure it's lost forever. Around 75% of it is based off people who played the level's memory of it and some very few filler parts. Interesting. Dude, that's crazy. I genuinely, it is kind of astounding to me how easy it is for stuff to just become completely lost media because of the way that like development cycles work now and other associated factors. Just coming fast was like, this is probably illegal. Yeah, probably. There's an hour-long documentary on the level. I fucking love niche documentaries on random shit on YouTube. Alright, I need an item box. And I got an item box. Very nice. Golden mushroom. Used to be a JoJo movie that was never released and was lost media. I know about the JoJo OVA from 1993, and I got a soft spot for that, I gotta say. Perfect time for that shock to happen. It's a prequel. It's blocked because Dio was reading a religious book. Oh, the media censors. Okay, okay. Don't remember the details. Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's like how I think in Japan they have very strict religious censoring of media where if it contains overtly religious imagery, they don't publish it. You know, like if it's a cross or a moon or a Star of David. Actually, no, I think it's just a cross. I think it's like there's certain... I think you could still publish stuff in Japan if it contains a crescent moon or the Star of David, which is very, very strange. I guess they just have to say, like, yeah, this isn't like a this isn't directly like meant to be real world Islam or Judaism or something. I don't know. It's just kind of strange how the censorship laws work over there. I'm not entirely sure. I'm getting fucking slapped around. Am I gonna have to do one more? Jesus, this race is going horribly. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do one more. Damn it. Sixth? Yeah. Big part of the whole thing was Element 111 RG was part of a mega collab that was going to have 118 levels representing the periodic table. Interesting. Okay, okay. Of those levels, only 10 ever came out, and 3 of them still exist today. And the guy who made it 111 RG was honestly a bit of a piece of shit, and was a bit of a shit, and was intentionally hiding the level because it wanted it to be mysterious. And it's even worse because level came out in 1.6. The ability to copy levels only came out in 1.7. Oof. Yeah, that's how fucking development cycle enables lost media, right? It's like, I don't know. I guess as media gets more and more atomized, where it's like, you know, it used to be anybody who wanted to make media would have to go through some sort of the production process, in which case there would be records of that stuff. But then nowadays you got like anybody can make a user created level, and you know, a level in a game like Geometry Dash or Mario Maker can become really famous, at least in the community. And but because it's just like a community creation, it didn't go through any sort of official processes, so there's going to be limited, if any, documentation of it. It's possible for one update to just wipe it all out. Found the original person who hosted the whole Element collab's old save file. The game locally saves the 20th most recent level you've downloaded. They had Element 111 RG as on their profile as their 22nd most recently downloaded level. Interesting. Wait, so then that means that like they narrowly missed it? It was like just barely not saved or something? Apple's getting tariffed? Yeah. I did hear that. I heard vaguely that like there's tariff discourse again in the administration, which kind of bodes for like what I was saying the last time I made a video segment about the tariffs, that they might just like do a version of this every single fucking month, you know, for the rest of the whole life of this government, right? Like they might just keep saying, haha, tariffs, nah, just kidding. Haha, tariffs, nah, just kidding. And then like all that as a ploy to, number one, manipulate the market, and number two, sort of extortion racketeer certain businesses who will like go shopping for tariff exemptions and stuff. No, I barely missed. Could have seen the full level if we started searching in 2018. Oh man, missed by that much, huh? No, I hit the wall. Movie called Civil War about a journalist. No, I do not know about that movie. Movie I do know about, though, is Bullet Train. I think I was gonna watch that movie. Kind of wanted to watch it. Second? Alright, that's good. I'm happy with that. Movie keeps the conflict, not specific. Non-specific to make it not biased. Interesting. It's a genuine possibility that somebody's old phone or tablet from 2014 still has a level available and locally downloaded. We just don't know who, and they like would never find us. Yeah, that's kind of like lost media territory. Civil War, there we go. In a dystopian future, 4 journalists travel across the United States during a nationwide conflict. While trying to survive, they aim to reach the White House to interview the president before he is overthrown. Level fucking sucks, like it's horribly made. I would expect as much from a Kaizo level of Geometry Dash. I'm gonna be honest, I don't have that much faith in movies depicting like dystopian Civil War politics future kind of thing. Unless the movie is The Hunger Games, in which case it's literally a Leninist film about class conflict. Civil War from the perspective of a war journalist. Oh, interesting. Honestly, I feel like I'd rather just listen to Dylan Burns about journalism and war journalism and stuff. Creator had a ton of knowledge at the time, like had some really unique mechanics, but they were awful at playing them, so they were either borderline impossible or extremely easy. Ah, the Plight of an Auteur or something. Funny you mentioned Kaizo, considering the creator of 111RG literally started by making stupidly unfair Mario World ROM hacks. Fitting. I do actually think that there is an art to making Kaizo stuff. But particularly, I think it's most well developed with Super Mario World because that's where it originates. The first Kaizo anything was a game called Super Mario World Kaizo. Or like Kaizo Mario World or something like that. If you ever want to see more, Stormfly's got a video on it. Gotcha. Who's live right now? Mango, Moki, Nut. And Hassan. You know what? I think I'm just gonna not rate. Well, nah, I'm not gonna raid this time. My fellow Americans. Fuck Barack Obama. Fuck liberals. Fuck the BBB party. Fuck the BBB in parentheses big beautiful bill. We must cultivate the society of BBB in parentheses big booty bitches. There we go. Go read a book or do something fun like that. All right, I'll see you guys next time. Hopefully I'm hopefully back at like the regular time next time.